Their impact is to make a pregnant woman vigilant about her safety, nutrition, and surroundings, and less attuned to other kinds of tasks such as making conference calls and organizing her schedule. That's why, especially in the last month or so of pregnancy, Nicole starts to feel distracted, forgetful, and preoccupied. Not since puberty have there been so many changes going on in her brain at once, of course. Each woman's response depends on her psychological state and the events in her life, but these are the biological underpinnings. These are the biological underpinnings of her changing reality during pregnancy. At the same time, the size and structure of a woman's brain are changing too. Between 6 months and the end of pregnancy, fMRI brain scans have shown that a pregnant woman's brain is actually shrinking. This may be because some parts of her brain get larger as others get smaller, a state that gradually returns to normal by 6 months after giving birth. 6 months after, in animal studies, we've seen that the thinking part of the brain, the cortex, enlarges during pregnancy, revealing the complexity and flexibility of female brains. Scientists still don't know exactly why the brain size changes, but it seems to be an indication of the massive brain restructuring and metabolic changes going on. It's not that a woman is losing brain cells. Some scientists believe the mother's brain shrinks because of changes in cellular metabolism required for restructuring brain circuits, getting ready to turn some one-lane highways into superhighways. So while the body is gaining weight, the brain is actually losing it. In the final 1 to 2 weeks before giving birth, the brain begins to increase again in size as it constructs large networks of maternal circuits. Otherwise, the child's first sentence would have to be, "Mommy, I shrunk your brain." The birth of the mommy brain. As her due date approaches, Nicole's brain will become almost exclusively preoccupied with her baby and with fantasies about how she is going to make it through all the pain and physical effort to push out a healthy child without killing herself or the baby. Her mommy brain circuits switch to high alert. She gets bursts of energy even though she feels like a beached whale and can only waddle. Charlie also becomes preoccupied, not with the birthing process so much as with physical things, such as space for the baby, painting its room, and acquiring all the necessary equipment, most of which Charlie had purchased months ago. He suddenly thinks of 6 more things they will need. The daddy brain circuits are rapidly connecting up for the big event. Now the countdown to birth begins. Nicole is given a due date, but told it could be up to 2 weeks earlier or 2 weeks later. This is because each baby gets ready to be born at its own pace. This will be the first of many times Nicole and Charlie are held hostage to the innate timing of their child's developmental schedule, which rarely fits with what they have in mind. The day finally arrives. Nicole's water breaks, and the amniotic fluid comes flooding down her legs. The baby is head down and ready. The mommy brain is switched on right at birth by a cascade of oxytocin, cued by signals coming from the fully developed fetus. When it is ready to be born, a pregnant woman's level of progesterone suddenly collapses, and oxytocin pulses flood her brain and body, causing the uterus to start contracting. As the baby's head moves through the birth canal, more bursts of oxytocin fire in the brain, activating new receptors and forging thousands of new connections between neurons. The result at birth can be euphoria induced by oxytocin and dopamine, as well as profoundly heightened senses of hearing, touch, sight, and smell. 1 minute you're sitting there, an awkward, beached whale, and the next your uterus is lurching into your throat, and you can't believe that it's feasible to do the pelvic equivalent of expelling a watermelon through your nostril. After too many hours for most of us, the ordeal is over, and your life and brain have changed forever. In the mammal world, there's nothing unusual about these brain changes at birth. Take sheep, for instance. When a baby lamb passes through its mother's birth canal, oxytocin pulses rewire the ewe's brain in minutes, making it exquisitely sensitive to its baby's smell. For 5 minutes or less, just after birth, she's able to imprint the odor of her newborn. After that, she'll permit only her own lamb to nurse, rejecting others which have unfamiliar smells. If she doesn't get to smell her own baby in those first 5 minutes, she will not recognize it and thus reject it too. The act of birth triggers rapid neurological changes in the ewe that can be seen in her brain anatomy, neurochemistry, and behavior. For the human mother, the lovely smells of her newborn's head, skin, poop, spit up, breast milk, and other bodily fluids that have washed over her during the first few days will become chemically imprinted on her brain, and she'll be able to pick out her own baby's smell above all others with about 90% accuracy. This goes for her baby's cry and body movements too. The touch of her baby's skin, the look of its little fingers and toes, its short cries and gasp are all now tattooed on her brain. Within hours to days, overwhelming protectiveness may seize her. Maternal aggression sets in. Her strength and resolve to care for and protect this little being completely grab the brain circuits. She feels as if she could stop a moving truck with her own body to protect her baby. Her brain has been changed, and along with it, her reality. It is perhaps the biggest reality change of a woman's life. Ellie, a 39-year-old first-time mother, had been happily married for 2 years to a self-employed salesman. When she came to see me during the first year of their marriage, she had lost a baby to miscarriage. Within 6 months, she was pregnant again. Soon after her daughter's birth, she began having freakouts, as she called them, about her husband's earning power and lack of health care benefits. In truth, their financial situation hadn't changed at all, and she'd never had any of these misgivings before. Now, however, she was blazingly angry with her husband for not providing a more secure home for her and their baby girl. Her needs and reality had changed radically, virtually overnight, and her new protective maternal brain was tightly focused on her husband's ability to provide for the family. With their aggressive protective instinct fully primed, mothers become hyper-vigilant about all aspects of their home turf, especially infant safety, such as having baby-proof electrical plug covers, installing latches on the kitchen cabinet doors, and making sure everyone washes their hands thoroughly before touching the baby. Like a human global positioning system, a mother's brain centers for sight, sound, and movement are honed in on monitoring and tracking her baby. This increased vigilance can take all forms depending on the threat. A mother sees to the safety and stability of her nest. Even reassessment of her husband's role as provider is not unusual. The maternal brain circuits change in other ways too. Mothers may have better spatial memory than females who haven't given birth, and they may be more flexible, adaptive, and courageous. These are all skills and talents they will need to keep track of and protect their babies. Female rats, for example, that have had at least one litter are bolder, have less activity in the fear centers of their brains, do better on May's test because they are better at remembering, and are up to 5 times more efficient in catching prey. These changes last a lifetime, researchers have found, and human mothers may share them. This transformation holds true even for adoptive mothers. As long as you're in continuous physical contact with the child, your brain will release oxytocin and form the circuits needed to make and maintain the mommy brain. The daddy brain. Expectant dads go through hormonal and brain changes that roughly parallel those of their pregnant mates. This may explain the strange experience of my patient, Joan. She and her husband, Jason, were ecstatic when their pregnancy test came back positive. 3 weeks into the pregnancy, however, Joan began to have violent morning sickness. By her 3rd month, she'd gradually improved, but then, to her surprise, Jason started feeling so nauseated in the morning that he couldn't eat breakfast and could barely drag himself out of bed. He lost 5 pounds in 3 weeks and was worried that he had a parasite. But what Jason actually had was Kuvaid syndrome, a common complaint of expectant dads, up to 65% worldwide, who share some of the symptoms of pregnancy with their partners. In the weeks before birth, researchers have found fathers have a 20% rise in their level of prolactin, the nurturing and lactation hormone. At the same time, their level of the stress hormone cortisol doubles, increasing sensitivity and alertness. Then, in the first weeks after birth, men's testosterone plummets by a third, while their estrogen level climbs higher than usual. These hormone changes prime their brains for emotionally bonding with their helpless little offspring. Men with lower testosterone levels actually hear the cries of babies better. They don't hear quite as well as moms, however. When babies whimper, for example, fathers are slower than mothers to respond, although they tend to react just as quickly when a baby screams. Men's lower testosterone levels also decrease their sex drive during this time. Testosterone suppresses maternal behavior in females as well as males. Fathers who have Kuvaid syndrome have higher levels of prolactin than other fathers do, and steeper drops in testosterone when they interact with their babies. It may be scientists think that pheromones produced by a pregnant woman can cause these neurochemical changes in her mate, preparing him to be a doting father and equipping him secretly through smell with some of the special nurturing mechanisms of the mommy brain. And some more bullshit. Page 104. So 100 to 104. The female brain.